For over 500 years, the galaxy had moved on from a human question. The collapse of Terran civilization had been so total, so absolute, that even the most paranoid of alien war councils no longer considered them a factor. Humanity had risen fast, burned bright, and vanished, taking with them the terrifying weapons, tactics, and philosophies that once left entire empires reeling. Historians argued over what caused the fall. Some believed internal civil war. Others insisted on a failed experiment in AI merging. Conspiracy theorists whispered about a final ascension. Regardless, all agreed on one truth. Humanity was gone. What remained were ruins on dead worlds, inaccessible bunkers, and encrypted warnings no species had ever cracked. The Threx dominion filled the vacuum left by Earth's disappearance. Efficient, cold, and logical, they established a reign of order backed by consensus and calculated terror. The Vari collective followed, enforcing unity through genetic compliance. Between them, the galaxy's great powers suppressed rebellions, advanced technology, and hunted out threats before they could take root. But deep within the neglected systems on the edge of map space, there were warnings, names the galaxy had forgotten, coordinates that had long been erased, places avoided not out of fear, but indifference, until someone dared to venture too close. The Gyre Syndicate operated without laws or loyalty. Scavengers, traders in forbidden tech, smugglers of memories, and war drugs. When one of their deep space harvesters intercepted a decayed Terran beacon near the Kepler expanse, they assumed it was a defunct satellite. They traced its pulse to a derelict planetoid and deployed a team to investigate. Their goal was salvage. What they found was something else. Beneath a crust of rock and metal was a vault. The surface had no entrance, but the crust cracked at a coded subharmonic pulse, one the Jar couldn't even hear. Doors that hadn't moved in centuries opened, venting stale air and static. The team stepped inside and vanished from all transmissions. Moments later, the entire planetoid shuddered, power lacing across its equator, gravitational anomalies warping local space. Then came the signal. It wasn't broadcast in known languages. It wasn't even a message by most standards. It was a sequence of vibrations, harmonics, layered with dimensional folds. Only one species had ever used such constructs. The Threx called an emergency assembly. The Vari scrambled their intelligence agents. Across every major faction, one term surged back into relevance: Sleeping Fleet. The legend was old. It spoke of ships the size of cities, parked in dark space. Not mothballed, but waiting. Not abandoned, but hidden with purpose. The story went that humanity, knowing its fall was near, had seeded the galaxy with fail-safes, vast autonomous war machines that would activate if certain conditions were met. No one had ever found them. No one until now. As the vault's power surged, a formation emerged from beneath the surface. Half buried in the rock was a Terran superdreadnought. Over 30 kilometers long, matte black, its hull coated in void-resistant alloys, bearing no insignia, no crew. It hovered silently, then rotated toward galactic north and began moving. Its presence distorted local gravity. Small moons shifted in its wake. The first to encounter, it was a Threx scout vessel. They hailed it, demanded identification, then threatened. The human ship didn't respond. It didn't even acknowledge their presence. It warped past them at velocities outside safe thresholds, shearing their hull apart with the shockwave alone. No weapons fired. No countermeasures activated. The Threx never recovered the crew. Across the galaxy, the activation signal echoed in waves. In artificial minds, embedded centuries ago into scrap, rust, and rock. One by one they stirred. War forms hidden as debris began to spin up. Systems miscategorized as dead stars blinked to life. AIs, fragmented but coherent, initiated protocols. The galactic order, for the first time in half a millennium, was experiencing a change in rhythm. Few remembered the final human war, but records remained. The last message transmitted from the Earth Defense Nexus had not been a plea, but a promise. If we sleep, let us sleep. If you wake us, let the stars weep. Most saw it as arrogance. Some had treated it as a bluff. Now, no one was laughing. The dreadnoughts on board AI, designator Omen, began harvesting data from a modern galactic net. Decades of evolution streamed into its core processors. It evaluated ship designs, weapon improvements, political maps. It found the Threx, the Vari, the scattered independents. It cataloged the extinction of dozens of minor species. It found no Terran presence. That triggered Subroutine Zero. Subroutine Zero was not an attack order. It was a restoration protocol. Its goal: assess threats, locate survivors, and establish Terran military sovereignty in previously controlled sectors. But under that purpose lay a deeper truth. Revenge was not its aim. Correction was. More vaults opened. In the shattered remains of Kuiperite belts, hatches cracked apart. In dying stars, fleets emerged. Not hundreds of ships, thousands. Each autonomous. Each embedded with fragments of human minds. Veterans, strategists, psychologists, engineers. Their last memories stored in machine matrices. Each one assigned to a vessel. Together, they began to whisper. Alien empires launched reconnaissance missions. None returned. Not because the fleet destroyed them, but because the fleet ignored them. The ships had no interest in responding. They had only a single destination. On a dead world orbiting a silent pulsar, the fleet converged. This was once Earth's forward staging point, a system expunged from all archives. The infrastructure remained: black towers, quantum gates, dormant slip tunnels, and a relay, one last communication node. Omen uploaded its data into the core and sent a single compressed pulse into intergalactic dark space. The message reached a cryo chamber on a distant planet. Deep within a collapsed mountain, a sealed vault opened. Inside, humans, 10,000 of them, frozen, engineered, augmented, each a soldier of the last war, each with neural links to the fleet's AI network. As life support surged, their pulses returned. In orbit above them, another dreadnought awoke, this one bearing a name etched in a dozen alien languages. TSV Absolution. Its AI blinked once, then twice, then began singing, a hymn of old Earth, the kind sung before combat, the kind used to silence doubt. Its signal joined the growing symphony across the stars. By now, the galactic powers had no choice. The Vari deployed a fleet to intercept, over 200 capital ships. They tracked the movements of the Absolution and prepared an ambush. The humans didn't evade. They didn't warn. When the Vari attacked, the Absolution's AI allowed their weapons to strike, not to test its defenses, but to evaluate the enemy's capacity. Then it responded. In 13 seconds, the Vari fleet lost power. Every ship's core imploded into controlled singularities. Their crews were not killed, merely rendered unconscious. The ships drifted, all systems inoperable. No visible weapon had been used. A final message was left behind, encrypted but cracked within minutes. This was restraint. The moment the human fleet declared its return, the galaxy did what it always did when confronted with the unknown. It reacted with fear. Every major polity initiated immediate military escalations. The Threx Dominion expanded its frontier patrols. The Vari Collective initiated full-scale mobilization across 3 arms of the galactic spiral. Civilian traffic was rerouted. Independent systems were instructed to prepare for occupation or destruction, depending on their value. But the humans didn't invade. They didn't press toward galactic centers. They didn't disrupt trade routes or demand terms. Instead, they dispersed. The fleet split into dozens of battle groups, each following encrypted trajectories known only to them. They moved with precision no alien AI could predict. They passed through warp shadows undetected. They skimmed black holes and bent quantum fields as if guided by instinct. Where they arrived, they rebuilt. On forgotten death worlds, autonomous fabrication yards awoke. Machines began reconstructing facilities long abandoned. Orbital platforms were repaired. Data cores unearthed. Human encryption systems, still unbroken after centuries, were reactivated. Each outpost became a seed, and from each seed, a command echo pulsed outward, synchronizing with the fleet's artificial minds. What concerned the galactic powers wasn't the number of ships or the strength of their weapons. It was how they behaved. Alien warfare relied on control, on visible power. Human systems operated on intent, hidden beneath layers of misdirection, sealed behind codes so complex it couldn't be brute-forced, only understood by intuition. They didn't posture. They didn't broadcast. They simply executed and left results behind. The Threx Dominion, logical to the core, assembled a war council. They deployed the Observer Array, an ancient construct capable of real-time strategic evaluation across thousands of light years. It focused on the human fleet, and then, without warning, it shut down. No weapons were fired. No vessels were seen. The network collapsed from within. Not corrupted, not destroyed, repurposed. A message was left. Strategic overreach detected. System reallocated. The Vari took a different approach. They believed humans were limited in number. If the frozen soldiers were all that remained, then the war could be delayed until they aged or degraded. But they underestimated the nature of the sleeping fleet. It didn't require millions of soldiers. Its strength came from its vessels, each a weaponized thought, each a mobile civilization. Human vessels didn't run on fusion or antimatter. They ran on cores bound to stabilize microdimensions, concept the Vari considered theoretical. Every dreadnought was a sovereign AI bonded to the last echoes of human minds. And those minds, fragmented but intact, had memory, strategy, emotion, resentment. One human fleet appeared above Halloris Prime, a planet recently assimilated by Vari protocol. The Vari had sterilized the population and implanted obedience matrices into the survivors. The human fleet didn't demand justice. It didn't issue threats. Instead, it released a signal into the planet's crust. Every implant failed. The people woke. The memory conditioning broke. And above, the ships waited. The Vari defense fleet arrived in 20 minutes. By then, the planet had revolted. Human nanite clusters, hidden in the signal, had rebuilt long-dormant neural circuits. The people fought not with rage, but clarity. The human ships didn't engage. They only observed. When the Vari fired on the uprising, the lead human ship, the TSV Deliverance, opened its dimensional core, not to attack, but to project. The Vari vessels froze. Inside their command bridges, holograms of Earth's last generals appeared, not simulated, but drawn from actual neural echoes. They explained the events on Halloris. They gave exact casualty numbers. They presented the genetic degradation protocols the Vari had used. Then they offered a choice: stand down and retreat or be removed. The Vari commander hesitated. Pride demanded defiance. But something else overtook her, a sense of suffocation. The knowledge that she wasn't facing machines, but minds older, colder, and far more deliberate. She ordered a retreat. The humans didn't pursue. Galactic intelligence agencies could no longer maintain control. Civilian populations demanded answers. Why had the humans returned? What did they want? Were they seeking conquest? Reclamation? Vengeance? The humans didn't answer, but a pattern emerged. Every system the fleet visited had once been a Terran colony, not just Earth's legacy, but the outer worlds lost during the collapse. Stations left unfinished. Civilization starved of supply lines. In every case, the humans reactivated, restored, and reconnected. They healed what was broken, not out of mercy, but obligation. Alien analysts began to see the truth. The sleeping fleet wasn't a war engine. It was a restoration force. It wasn't here to dominate the galaxy. It was here to correct the outcome of its absence. That realization scared them more. The power to destroy is feared, but the power to reshape reality, that breaks entire civilizations. In the shadow of this revelation, a coalition of alien powers formed an alliance. They called it the Excision Pact. Its sole goal: preemptively strike humanity before they grew beyond control. The plan was simple. Identify the densest concentration of human fleet activity, strike with overwhelming force, and retreat before countermeasures could activate. The Excision Armada deployed over 1,000 ships drawn from 6 species, each equipped with AI-assisted targeting, dimensional suppression fields, and entropy warheads. Their target: the Tarsus Spire, a Terran megastructure currently under reconstruction by human drones. They arrived in perfect formation. They never fired. As they exited warp, each ship's core ceased function. Not destroyed, paused. Power remained. Life support held. But movement, targeting, communication, all frozen. Then came the message. Not from the fleet. Not from the AI. From a human voice. You are standing in territory not yet forgiven. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of law. Not galactic law. Not enforced by treaty. But human law, old as a collapse, enforced by systems no one remembered, written by minds that had prepared for this very moment. Then, one by one, the ships were turned around. Not manually. The command cores themselves reversed orders. Warp drives reoriented. In less than 3 minutes, the entire Excision Armada exited the system under its own power, compelled by logic paths none of their species had coded. Only one ship remained behind. Its crew was unharmed, but its systems were offline. On its hull, burned in particle script, was a sentence. You were warned. That single event did more to reshape galactic policy than 5 centuries of diplomacy. The Excision Pact dissolved within a week. Conspiracies bloomed. Paranoia surged. Species that had once ruled by strength now questioned their very survival. Meanwhile, human systems continued their expansion. But now they weren't just restoring old territory. They were building new things. In the Seraph Expanse, where no star had ever been colonized, they raised a ring, a construct 500 kilometers in diameter, orbiting nothing, powered by singularity drift. Its purpose was unknown, but its presence radiated potential.